I'd love to start with your story, because you are from Gaza and still have lots of family there. You've also lost many members of your family in this war alone. So can you tell us a little bit about your life, how those experiences have shaped the way you see the world, and what ultimately led you to your work as a writer and advocate?
Well, I've said my story so many times, it's hard to remember where to start. But what I will briefly share is that I'll share three milestones, if you will, of my childhood. One is that I experienced the tail end of the Oslo process as well as the second intifada in Gaza. And I like to usually highlight the contrast between the two, because we did have an era where we obtained Palestinian passports. This was the Palestinian Authority coming into the Gaza Strip. I lived in Gaza City up in the north in a family building where each uncle had a floor. There was Palestinian Airlines and the short-lived Gaza International Airport, where I flew into multiple times in 1999 and in the year 2000. And so I got to experience the optimism, the hope, the ethos of a shift towards the nation-building agenda rather than the perpetual occupation and ensuing resistance narrative. So, and then there was the second intifada, which commenced in the year 2000 after the collapse, really, of the peace process. And so that brought upon a lot of violence, both between Israelis and Palestinians, and certainly the escalation of Israeli attacks on Gaza and Palestinian, what was called as a child acts of resistance, muqawama, against Israelis. But it also metastasized internally in terms of the trauma and the hardships and the societal dynamics were really challenging from within the Gaza Strip and from within the society, if you will. And I certainly saw violence up close, including the year 2001, where I had a very traumatizing near-death experience with the loss of two friends of mine who were killed in an Israeli bombing of a police station, and it rendered the concussive wave of the blast rendered me largely deaf in my left ear. And then I was really determined at the time, at the age of 11, to pursue options to go outside of Gaza and just to explore ways in which I could leave. And that happened at the age of 15, when I was able to obtain a scholarship to come to the United States as an exchange student for a year, live with a host family, with the idea of going back to Gaza once the program finished. And I attempted to do so in 2006, but I was stuck at the Egyptian-Gaza border, unable to cross in after Hamas carried out an attack that abducted an Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit, who would later be swapped with 1,100 Palestinian prisoners, including Yahya Sinwar, the later mastermind of October 7th. And so thanks to the support of peace activists and human rights activists, I returned to the United States. I finished high school, college. I applied for political asylum, which I received, and ultimately became a citizen 11 years ago. What's noteworthy is that my asylum interview took place on June 14th, 2007, which is the very day that Hamas violently took over the Gaza Strip. So I was the first of a wave of Palestinians who obtained political asylum because of Hamas's control over the Gaza Strip, and forcible takeover. And I'll just
this against Fatah.
Precisely. This was Hamas, the 2005 withdrawal of Israeli settlements, also known as the disengagement, happened. I left 1 month before that occurred. I left in July of 2005. The withdrawal happened in August 2005. Then there was the 2006 infamous parliamentary elections that Hamas won, and then there was the 2006 summer abduction of Gilad Shalit, and then there was the 2007 takeover by Hamas. And so that's kind of the 2-year timeline, if you will, in which Gaza's trajectory radically shifted for the worse. And I'll just briefly share that while in the United States, my family all remained immediate and extended. I have two brothers and two sisters, and my dad was an UNRWA doctor, UNRWA being the controversial UN agency that runs education, healthcare, a lot of refugee affairs. My mom's a math teacher. I have a brother in Gaza right now still. He runs field operations for a medical NGO, a British medical NGO. I remained in close contact with him. I stayed close to Gaza's affairs through activism, through humanitarian endeavors. I tried to build an internationally run airfield in Gaza 10 years ago that was Israeli approved with US and international support. That was really my introduction to radical pragmatism and working with Israelis and working with Palestinians and using intermediaries to talk to Hamas. I even talked to Sinwar. And this is not a secret. I wrote about this in Newsweek.